You think women fall for what you do for them? No, the truth is colder than that. They fall for the way they feel when they can't quite read you. There's something she won't tell you, something hidden beneath the way she laughs at your jokes, or the way she looks away for just a second too long. She's not being polite, she's measuring you. Every silence, every glance, every pause in the conversation, they aren't random. They're her sensors, quietly scanning your essence. She's not trying to understand you. She's trying to see if she can control you. And here's what most men don't realize. The moment you try to prove your worth to her, you've already lost it. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Epictetus. This isn't about seduction. It's not about tricks. It's about vision, about seeing what most men miss while they're too busy chasing her attention. Because while they pursue, the Stoic man observes. And when you see clearly, you stop being played. If you've ever questioned a woman's love, stay. You're about to see what 90% of men never do. There are things she feels but won't say, things she wants but won't admit, things she fears but disguises as indifference. And this is her first weakness. She doesn't want you to know what controls her, because once you do, you control it. Most women live in a paradox. They want to surrender, but only to a man strong enough not to chase that surrender. So she hides her triggers, her emotional pressure points. She guards them with sarcasm, coldness, or pretend confidence. But here's the truth. Every woman has soft spots, psychological entry points, and not the obvious ones, not the compliments, not the gifts, not the "you're beautiful" she's heard 1,000 times. I'm talking about the words that fracture her mask, the kind of attention that doesn't flatter, it unveils, it unsettles, it sees. That's why she'll test you, pretend she doesn't care, withdraw when you reach closer, because she's waiting to see if you'll fall for the version of her that she doesn't even believe in. A woman's first weakness is the fear that a man might see beneath the version she presents. So what does the Stoic man do? He doesn't chase her softness. He doesn't beg for her heart. He stands still, he observes, and she slowly comes apart in front of him. Because when you stop reacting, you become the mirror she can't escape. And in that silence, she sees herself. And it terrifies her. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. The average man tries to comfort her, tries to convince her she's enough. The Stoic man does something more powerful. He stays unmoved by her illusion, and in doing so, he invites her truth. There is no anger, no bitterness, no revenge, only awareness. Because once you become aware of her weakness, you don't have to exploit it, you just stop giving yours away. And that's when the game ends. That's when the power shifts. That's when she starts to wonder why your silence feels louder than every man who's ever begged for her attention. Her starved need for emotional depth. She scrolls endlessly, laughs at memes, pretends she's unbothered, but beneath that curated calm is an ache that never leaves. An ache for something deeper, something rare, something that doesn't shout but sees through her. Modern life has taught her to wear masks, to be fierce, independent, unshakable. But no matter how loud she laughs, there's a part of her starving for one thing she can't manufacture on her own. Emotional depth, not drama, not constant validation, but the steady, unwavering presence of a man whose stillness makes her feel more alive than any thrill. She might not say it. Hell, she might not even know it. But you'll feel it when she keeps coming back to your silence, when she brings chaos to your door just to see if it will move you, when she shares something small, but watches your eyes with the desperation of someone hoping to be recognized for once. Not for her body, not for her beauty, but for her truth. Women are not addicted to men. They're addicted to how a man makes them feel about themselves. And if you understand the void she walks with every day, the constant noise, the shallow connections, the over-explained feelings that still leave her empty, then you understand how dangerous your depth can be. Most men talk too much. They try to explain, to impress, to prove. But the Stoic man knows Presence is persuasion, not volume, not performance. Just the kind of internal solidity that says, I don't need anything from you, and yet I see everything in you. That paradox, it undoes her. Because when she realizes she can't sway you with her surface, she's forced to bring more. And that's when the buried hunger emerges, her deep craving for a man who doesn't just match her energy, but grounds it. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus. You don't chase her attention. You don't react to her provocations. And somehow, she finds herself opening up, telling you about her father, her fears, her failures, not because you asked, but because your silence made her feel safe enough to offer it. The truth is, the modern woman is emotionally starved, and not because she's weak, but because she's surrounded by men too afraid to hold space for her darkness, or too loud to ever let her reveal it. So she settles for hookups, for games, for social media highs, until she meets a man who can look her in the eye and say nothing, yet say everything. Your stillness, when rooted in value, becomes nourishment. You don't fill her void. You remind her it exists. And suddenly, you're not just another man. You're an emotional experience she didn't expect and can't replace. Not because you did anything, but because you are something. The second weakness of women isn't obvious, but it's universal. Beneath her strength is a longing. To be seen without needing to explain. To be known without performing. To be understood by someone who doesn't flinch when she stops pretending. And that is what the Stoic man offers. Not comfort, not compliments, but clarity. Not performance, but presence. And in that presence, she dissolves. Her insecurity about true value. She'll never say it directly. In fact, she might even pretend the opposite, that she's confident, unfazed, above it all. But if you listen between the lines, if you watch the way her eyes linger too long when another woman walks by, you'll sense it. She's not comparing outfits. She's comparing value. Not just beauty, not just charm, but value in the raw, psychological sense. Do I matter more than her in his eyes? Because what women don't want you to see is this. Behind every display of confidence, there's a quiet calculation happening. She wants to be the one. Not a woman, the woman. The one that holds your gaze, that owns your focus, that outshines every ghost in your past. But here's where it gets complex and dangerous for the unaware man. The more she senses that you depend on her validation, the more that insecurity in her gets quiet. Because now you're the one trying to prove value, and she can relax. You've given away the frame. But if you hold steady, if you remain centered, composed, unaffected by her games or her approval, then that insecurity starts to resurface. And this is not cruelty, it's reality. A woman's insecurity about her own value often awakens only in the presence of a man who doesn't need her to feel like a man. You show her something rare and unsettling, that you can see her beauty and not chase it, that you can appreciate her warmth and not fold into it, that you can feel desire without letting it lead you. That's when her entire system of validation breaks. Because if you don't need her, yet you choose her, it raises the stakes. Now she starts wondering, why him? Why do I want to be enough for a man who doesn't need me to be? It's not arrogance, it's power earned through restraint. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." And that's what terrifies her most. Not your aggression, not your money, but your quiet standard, your unshakable core, your refusal to be impressed by shallow performance. You become a man who doesn't compare her to other women, because you don't pedestal any woman. You compare her only to what she could become if she dares to meet you at your level. And that comparison, it stings, because it forces her to confront the gap between who she is and what you see. You don't have to say it. She feels it in the way you don't compliment her when she expects it, in the way you hold eye contact a little longer than necessary, but not long enough to give her dominance, in the way you walk away from the conversation while her mind keeps chasing it. Her insecurity is not about you being better. It's about you not needing to prove that you are. And in that space, her mask cracks. The third weakness is simple but deadly. She wants to feel like she's the most valuable thing in your world. but only if you never had to make her feel that way. Only if your presence alone forces her to wonder if she's enough for you, and that's when you know the frame is yours. Not because you took it by force, but because she handed it to you. Out of curiosity, out of awe, out of an insecurity she can't name but can't ignore. Her reaction to your silence. She'll say silence is boring, that she wants connection, conversation, vulnerability, and on the surface, maybe she believes that. But there's a deeper truth pulsing beneath her words, a truth that few men ever dare to test. Because when you stop filling the space, when you let silence stretch just long enough to make her feel it, something shifts. She gets nervous, restless, not because you're doing something wrong, but because she's no longer in control of the emotional rhythm. Most men rush to fill the void. They text too soon, over-explain, over-apologize. They mistake her momentary quiet for disinterest, and they panic. But the Stoic man knows better. He understands that silence is not absence, it's presence without pressure. And that pressure is exactly what cracks the mask. When a woman is used to being the center of attention, your silence confronts her with the possibility that she might not be, not in your world, not anymore. And that possibility, that she isn't occupying your thoughts the way she expected it, haunts her, because it flips the dynamic. Now she's the one leaning in, wondering why you aren't chasing. Now she's the one rereading the messages, hearing the echo of a quiet that feels louder than words. Now she's the one asking herself, did I lose his interest? Did I go too far? Why isn't he reacting? And that's the key. The silence of a high-value man is not indifference. It's signal. It's data. It says, I don't need your energy to stay grounded. Be silent for the most part. Or speak only what is necessary and in few words. Epictetus. You're not punishing her, you're revealing her. Because her reaction to your silence tells you everything you need to know. If she lashes out, accuses, dramatizes, she's projecting. If she withdraws, tests you with distance, she's baiting. If she mirrors your calm and respects your rhythm, she's aligning. Silence is the scalpel. It cuts through the performance. It removes the layers. And suddenly, you're not just another man trying to entertain her emotions. You're the man who can exist fully even in the absence of her. And that terrifies her, because it means she doesn't own the script anymore. Here's the secret most men never figure out. When you speak less, she reveals more. The more she talks, the more she tells on herself. The more you observe, the more you learn. While others are busy reacting to her moods, you're reading her mind not by force, but by stillness. And that stillness is power, not just because it makes her chase, but because it makes you immune. She can't manipulate a man who doesn't need to explain himself. She can't lead a man who has already mastered self-direction. She can't distract a man who finds clarity in silence. The fourth weakness is not found in her words, but in her need to escape the absence of yours. Her discomfort when you go quiet isn't about ego, it's about control. When you stop responding, she starts revealing. When you stop reacting, she starts questioning. And that quiet storm you leave behind, it does more damage, more seduction than any perfectly timed pickup line ever could. Because while she's trying to get a reaction, you've already moved to the next move unmoved, undisturbed, unreadable. She's drawn to what she can't predict. She'll tell you she wants honesty, transparency, clarity, but the truth is far more primal than her words. What truly ignites her is unpredictability, not chaos, not volatility, but the steady, unreadable presence of a man she can't fully decode. Because when she can't predict you, she can't place herself above you. And when she can't place herself above you, she begins to orbit. Most men hand away their mystery. They overshare, overcommit. They explain their every thought, every feeling, hoping it builds trust. But what it really does is dissolve tension. And tension, the right kind, is the lifeblood of desire. A woman doesn't want to know what you're going to say next. She wants to wonder, to feel the edge in your stillness, to sense that there are parts of you that will never be fully hers no matter how close she gets. She tests boundaries not to break you, but to feel you, to find the limits, to trace the walls of your inner world and see if anything inside moves when she pushes. But when she pushes and nothing breaks, when you stay grounded, still, unaffected, she begins to feel something she didn't expect. A pull, a draw toward your mystery, a craving for the unknown within you. Predictable men are comfortable, replaceable. They follow a script, tell her what she wants to hear, react when she wants a rise, panic when she pulls away. But the man who doesn't dance to her rhythm, the man who breaks the script and writes his own, he becomes unforgettable, not because he's trying to be, but because he's not trying at all. Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. Marcus Aurelius. This is the truth most men never grasp. When she can predict you, she feels safe but uninspired. When she can't predict you, she feels something deeper, alive, not comfortable, not reassured, but stimulated, stirred, awakened. You don't have to be mysterious by force. You don't have to play games. You simply have to become so rooted in your own values, your own discipline, that her emotional swings no longer define your behavior. And in that stability, you become unpredictable because you're no longer reacting, you're choosing. Every word, every silence, every step back, every look you hold a second too long. She won't understand it at first. She may even resist it. She might call you cold, or distant, or detached. But behind her resistance is fascination, and behind that fascination is desire, because she doesn't want to be the center of your world. She wants to enter your world, a world with edges, shadows, silence, and strength. The fifth weakness, then, is not just emotional, it's instinctual. A woman is magnetized by the presence she can't map, by the man she can't fully name, by the mystery that keeps pulling her back long after the words have ended, not because he withheld, but because he contained. And in that containment, in that quiet mastery of self, you become what she never saw coming. She tests you without a word. She'll never say, "This is a test." She won't announce it. She won't warn you, because the real tests never come with instructions. They come in silence, in sideways glances, in small shifts of energy that most men don't notice until it's too late. A delayed reply, a sarcastic jab, a sudden coldness after a moment of connection. These are not accidents. These are calibrations. She's not confused. She's observing, watching how you move when the rules are no longer obvious. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to feel your structure. And what she's testing isn't your intelligence. It's not your charm. It's your internal frame, the invisible posture that says, "I do not collapse under pressure. I remain who I am, even when the emotional weather shifts." Most men fail these tests, not because they're weak, but because they're unaware they're being tested at all. They react, they over-communicate, they try to fix, to smooth, to explain away the tension. But the Stoic man understands. Not every rupture requires a response. Some ruptures are intentional, created not to destroy, but to measure. She wants to know if the ground beneath her feet is solid, or if it trembles every time she storms. You see, a woman doesn't respect the man who always says yes. She doesn't admire the man who sacrifices his center for connection, because that kind of man is common. And what's common cannot be craved. She may enjoy the comfort for a while. She may praise your niceness, but she will never ache for it, because she can't trust what bends too easily. She can't follow what flinches. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. The moment she senses your emotions depend on hers, the game is over, because now she leads and she never wanted to. The power she pretends to crave is not the power she respects. What she truly wants is a man she cannot shake, not because he's rigid, but because he's anchored. You will know you're being tested when your ego flares, when you feel the urge to prove, when her distance makes you want to chase. That is the signal not to react, but to return to your breath, to your calm, to the quiet command within you that needs nothing from her but the truth of who she is. And here's the paradox. The less you react, the more she reveals. She might push harder, she might escalate, but eventually the mask drops, and now You're no longer in the test, you're in the truth. The sixth weakness is hidden in plain sight. Her need to know if you can hold steady when she cannot. Her need to press against your boundaries, not to break them, but to feel safe inside them. She doesn't want to lead. She wants to relax into the presence of a man who cannot be moved by fear, flattery, or feminine fire. Not because he resists her, but because he's mastered himself. And in that mastery, she surrenders. Her fear of being forgotten. She won't show it at first. She'll pretend she's fine, that she's moved on, that your silence means nothing. But there's a fear that haunts her far more than heartbreak. It's the fear of being forgettable, not just left behind, but erased, out of sight, out of thought, out of meaning. And that fear doesn't come from ego. It comes from something deeper, the need to feel significant in a man's world, to leave a mark, to linger, to matter so much that even your absence still carries the shape of her name. Most men don't understand this. They think she's cold, distant, over it. But what they don't see is what happens in the quiet, when no one's watching, when she checks your stories, rereads old messages, wonders why it's her doing the remembering while you remain silent, composed, untouched. You see, it's not your attention she truly craves. It's your memory, your inability to let go. That's what most women use as proof that they meant something. And when that proof doesn't come, when the messages stop, when your energy fades into stillness, when your gaze no longer follows something inside her, begins to burn. Because now, she isn't just fighting for closure, she's fighting for existence. She'll replay conversations in her mind. She'll imagine different outcomes. She'll tell herself you'll come back. And when you don't, when your silence remains unbroken, when your focus shifts inward instead of toward her, that's when the weight hits. Not because you were cruel, but because you were complete enough to walk away without resentment, without chasing, without noise. How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only what he does himself. To make it just and holy, Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic man doesn't erase her to hurt her. He simply reclaims his attention, and in doing so, makes it sacred again. And once that happens, she starts to feel the difference between men who wanted her and men who could live without her. That difference to her is unbearable, because while every man before you made his love known through pursuit, through reaction, through repeated attempts at resolution, you offered no such signal. You didn't explain, you didn't justify, you didn't collapse into dramatics or chase closure like a wounded boy. You simply withdrew your light, and in that darkness, she was left to feel her own insignificance. Not because you made her small, but because she mistook your presence for permanence. And now, stripped of it, she's forced to reckon with a reality where her beauty, her body, her brilliance, no longer hold weight in your world. That is the seventh weakness, a woman's hidden, aching fear that she's just another face, not the one, that her fire didn't leave a burn mark, that her voice is no longer echoing in your mind. She won't tell you this. She might not even tell herself. But if your silence is unshaken long enough, she'll feel it. Deeply. In the way she checks her phone. In the way she hopes your name lights up. In the way her pride fights the urge to reach out while her heart screams to be remembered. And this is how you win without saying a word. By refusing to prove that she mattered. By letting your absence speak what your words never could. That you are the man who can walk away and never look back. Her desire to control, reversed. She doesn't walk into your life hoping to control you, not consciously, but control. For many women, isn't about power in the way men imagine it. It's about emotional leverage, influence, the ability to shift your mood, pull your attention, spark your jealousy, all without ever asking directly. She wants to feel that she matters, that she can affect you, that you're not just present, but emotionally responsive to her presence. This isn't malicious, it's instinct, it's biology, it's history. Women have been taught that their strength lies not in physicality, but in emotional influence, that the real power is not in pushing, but in pulling. And most men, they fall right into that pull. They react, they adjust, they bend their schedule, their standards, their center, because she raised an eyebrow, because she seemed a little colder today, because she looked like she might be slipping away. But the man who doesn't react, he awakens something else entirely. The moment she realizes she no longer controls the tempo of your attention, something flips. At first, confusion, then curiosity, then hunger, because now you've reversed the polarity. Now you are the center and she's orbiting, not because you demanded it, not because you manipulated her, but because your emotional autonomy left no doors open for her games to work. This is not about indifference. Indifference is hollow. This is self-command, and self-command is magnetic. When she pushes, and you don't lean. When she pulls, and you don't chase. When she accuses, and you don't defend. When she withdraws, and you don't fill the space with noise, you become something rare in her world. A man who is not afraid to lose her. That terrifies her, but it also draws her closer, because now, for the first time, she feels herself working for your attention, not because you're cold, but because you're sovereign. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus, you don't withhold out of spite. You simply live by a code. You give energy only where it is received with grace. You remain firm in your direction. And if she aligns, she joins. If not, you don't reach. This flips everything. The woman who once dictated the pace now watches you move without her cues. The woman who expected you to fold now sees you fold your arms instead. And suddenly, the control she once had, the soft domination she subtly exercised, it dissolves. And that's when something deeper emerges. Respect. Because a woman can admire your charm. She can enjoy your attention, but she can only respect your control. Not over her, over yourself. The eighth weakness lies here in her hidden dependency on your emotional reactions. Take those away, and she's no longer the one shaping the dance. Now she's responding to your rhythm. Now she's trying to relearn her steps in a room where you set the tempo. And if she stays, if she adapts, softens, leans in, it's not because she's controlled, it's because she's chosen to move in the presence of a man who cannot be controlled. And that is the rarest man of all. The compliments that unravel her. Most men compliment like amateurs. They say what she's already heard 100 times. You're so beautiful. You have such a sexy smile. It's not that she hates hearing it, she doesn't. But it doesn't land. It doesn't touch her. It floats on the surface like perfume on water. Nice for a moment and then forgotten. What she craves is something far more dangerous. She craves the kind of words that see beneath. The compliments that don't flatter, they pierce. A woman's ego is not moved by the obvious. It's not moved by the compliments that anyone with eyes could say. What arrests her, what disarms her, is being seen in ways she wasn't ready for. When you speak to the parts of her she thought she was hiding, that's when her walls start to shake. Tell her she looks amazing, and she'll smile. Tell her she moves like someone who's learned how to be strong after being broken, and she'll forget how to breathe. That kind of compliment doesn't just make her feel desired, it makes her feel read, and that terrifies her, because when a man reads her well, she loses the power to direct the script. Now she's not performing, she's exposed, and exposure is both frightening and addictive. But here's the paradox. Most men don't go deep enough. They're afraid to make her uncomfortable, afraid to say something that might reach her soul, because they still believe that being liked is more important than being unforgettable. The Stoic man sees differently. He doesn't speak to earn approval, he speaks to reflect what is, with precision, with timing, with presence. He watches her not like prey, but like poetry, and then he names what others missed, not loudly, not for effect, just once, precisely, and then silence. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth. Marcus Aurelius. The truth of a woman is not in her words, It's in her reactions when she is truly seen. Compliments that unravel her don't shout. "Look how hot you are," they whisper. "I know what you're hiding." They touch the fears she buries, the hunger she suppresses, the pride she wears like armor over a soul that still wants to be held. Tell her she seems like she's always the strong one, and ask her when she last let go. Tell her she moves like someone who's trying not to fall apart. Tell her she smiles like it's a shield. Then say nothing more. It's not manipulation, it's insight. It's the ability to observe her without needing anything from her in return. And that neutrality, that calm gaze that sees without grasping, it disarms her faster than any touch ever could. The ninth weakness is subtle, but profound. A woman may crave attention, but what she truly responds to is reflection. When your words don't just describe her beauty, they decode her soul. When she feels seen in a way that makes her forget the persona and remember the person. That's when she leans closer, not out of lust, but out of surrender. Because now, you're not just another man admiring the surface. You're the quiet voice in the back of her mind that she can't turn off. So now you know, it was never about the lines you said. It was never about being charming, or funny, or rich. Those things might catch her eye, but they don't hold her soul. What holds her is the man who isn't trying to. Because the paradox is this: the moment you try to win her, you lose yourself. And the moment you stop trying to win, when you choose to stand still, in your center, unmoved by approval or rejection, that's when she starts leaning in, because you've become something she can't move, and therefore, something she can't forget. Most men want to be chosen. Few ever ask themselves if the woman is even worth choosing. They get lost in her curves, her laugh, the illusion of closeness. But the Stoic man, he sees the signal in the silence. He listens to the parts she's not saying, and most importantly, he listens to himself. You don't react to her moods. You don't chase her validation. You let her reveal herself, while you remain anchored in your own value. And if she rises to meet it, good. If she doesn't, you let her drift without bitterness, without drama, without compromise. Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. Marcus Aurelius. This is the quiet strength that terrifies women and transforms them. The discipline to love without losing control. The clarity to see through beauty and into character. The presence that makes her feel safe because she cannot sway you. And maybe she stays, maybe she doesn't. That's not your concern. Your concern is your frame, your values, your calm, your unshakable standard. Because at the end of the day, the man who doesn't need to be remembered always is. If that truth resonates, then you're not watching this for tactics. You're watching it because a part of you remembers what you forgot. That your power was never in getting her to choose you. It was always in becoming the kind of man who chooses with clarity. And now you see, now you know. So before you scroll away, before the world distracts you again, ask yourself this: when was the last time a woman made you forget your standards? And more importantly, when will it be the last? If you want more of this, if you want to keep seeing the world through the eyes of a man who no longer chases, but leads, then stay close. No begging, no promises, just one truth at a time.